Do you like winning chess games in only 5 moves? Do you enjoy aggressive openings that lead into big attacks? If you answered yes to both these questions, then this video is for you. I introduce you, my friends, the Tennyson Gambit and specifically the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation. The point is that you go here e4 and black plays d5 and you just go knight to f3 gambiting a pawn. Now, if you are an e4 player, you are most likely do not face the Scandinavian a lot. I mean, you face e5, you face knight f6, you face the Caro-Kann, you face the French, you face the Perk, you face the Modern. So all of those openings are, playable from the black side, but you don't get that Tennyson Gambit a lot. So my only way of doing it is to play knight to f3 first, as d5 here is the most common response from the black side. So now you will go e4 and transition the position into the Tennyson Gambit. So here black is obviously gonna take the pawn, and now you wanna go for knight to g5. Now knight to g5 is just saying, okay, I want my pawn back. Black is most likely is going to say no. There is no also with bishop to f5, but we're gonna cover that later on the video. And now white goes for d3. This is the Tennyson Gambit, which after he takes on d3, bishop takes on d3, and here white has got a pretty active position with the knight pressuring on the black side. And black is most likely is gonna be annoyed by this knight. So he's gonna go h6, trying to attack the knight and saying, okay, knight, it's time to retreat and go back home, or go for knight to e4 so I can exchange my knight, but just go back. And then the white horse saying, oh, I'm getting in, I'm not going back, and takes on f7. You may think, wait a minute, this is a dubious gambit because you just sacrificed your knight away for absolutely free. You are attacking my queen and my rook, yes I know, but I could capture the knight. And this is exactly what I want you to do, because now bishop to g6 is a good check for, and the king cannot protect her love backwards, so the king has got to go up and capture the bishop. And this is why it's called the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile variation, because the queen from all down of the board goes all the way to the top of the board to capture the black queen and winning a queen potential. So let me save you a little bit quickly. Here black could go for e5 and bait you into taking the other bishop on c8. And if you take the bishop on c8, now comes bishop to b4 check, which after that you are going to lose back your queen and you will end up being a pawn down, and with it you will lose the game. And you will probably say that this opening is not good anymore because I lose with it. But realistically, after queen takes d8, you are up a queen. If you can't win a game up a queen, well, let's be honest, I probably can't win a game up a queen, but you get the idea. Let's be realistic here. And after e5, you just drop back your queen immediately, like let's say queen to d3, bishop to f5, covering up the check. You go for a move like queen to b3 should be good, queen to g3 should be good, queen b3 putting pressure on the down on the pawn on b7, and life is fantastic here for white. So let's go back and see after pawn to d3 here. Here there is a couple of options for black also. They are not forced to take the pawn, but that's what we like them to do. So let's actually see a couple of lines. What are they calling it? The refutation of this gambit. So the first line is pawn to h6 immediately, saying, okay, goodbye knight. Now, of course, knight takes f7 doesn't work anymore because there is no bishop to check and this file is not yet open. So knight takes e4 is going to be forced to be played, which after that, knight takes e4 is going to be played, and yeah, you will get this endgame. And come on, we're not super grandmasters to play an endgame which is equal. And of course, if there's a trade on move 7, trading a knight and a queen, you should probably consider thinking about this opening again, because, all of the openings, there are some lines which are fun to play, And they are tactical and aggressive, but you know, some lines may make life harder for the side who is gambiting. And also here, after d3, black could play a move like bishop to g4, which after you will go for queen to d2, and now e takes d3 because this trick doesn't work anymore, and after bishop takes d3, pawn to e6, and this trick is now not working anymore, unfortunately, because if you go knight takes f7, king takes f7, and bishop to g6 check, king takes g6, queen takes d8, and now comes bishop to b4 again, and you lose your queen, so be careful. So it doesn't work anymore, so after that, black is gonna play e6, which after white is going to castle, and you know, black is gonna continue the development normally. Here you are blocking the way of your own bishop. So queen to f4 is a good move, you know, putting pressure over there and there. Bishop to h5, and you know, a move like knight to c3, and you just continue the development normally. Bishop to e7, bishop to e3, castles, queen to h5, trying to set up some tricks like this. You know, like let's say black plays pawn to a6, for example, then you always got tricks like bishop takes h7, knight takes h7, queen takes, but this is gonna lose you a piece, so be careful. But the trick starts with knight takes h7, which is more stronger because after knight takes h7, here you could take this and then take this with the check, but yeah, you could also take this straight away and get this kind of attack after queen to h4. You are still attacking, you have a great position as white, yet you are still down a pawn, but overall it's a great position for you. So pretty much after knight to f6, a quick revision here. After pawn to d3 and capturing on d3 and bishop takes d3, here almost any move allows knight takes e6 and bishop g6 idea, except for only knight to c6 and pawn to e6. They are both not good, and it doesn't work there anymore because, like, let's say they play knight to c6, for example, and when you take, they take, and now be careful because after all of this, the queen is defended right now with the knight, so black takes it and just laughs at you and he wins the game. But against almost any moves, like let's say pawn to c6, it still works, and because the queen is not protected, so you may as well go for it. But the critical variation is pawn to e6, because pawn to e6, knight takes f7, it doesn't work because after king to f7, bishop to g6, king takes it. Now if you take the queen, then comes bishop to b4, and you are losing the game. So instead, after e6, you should develop with knight to c3, developing your knight. Bishop to e7 is gonna come for black, and you know, you're just down a pawn here, but you got a lot of initiative. You sacrifice the pawn, but in compensation, you get this black light square bishop is trapped here behind its pawns. So, you know, a move like queen to f3, castles. Here you could go for short castling, but I like the more aggressive ones with bishop to f4, knight to c6, and then long castling, threatening immediately bishop takes h7 to win the queen. Let's say they cover the queen, for example. You still got some tactics, like here you could go for knight takes h7. Idea being is after knight takes h7, bishop takes h7, king takes h7, and at the end you got queen to d3, checking the king, picking up the bishop on the next move, and it should be a playable position. You regain your pawn back, you get a rook on the 7th rank, you should be in a slightly better position. But as I told you before, here, they could go h6 immediately or bishop to g4 immediately. This is why you could also deviate a little bit with the move knight to c3 immediately, because it attacks the pawn again and threatens to take the pawn immediately. So they are going to play bishop to f5, you know, trying to hang on to the pawn, and which after that you are just going to develop your bishop with a threat attacking the pawn on f7, and after e6 you are going to play queen to e2, regain back your pawn, and it's all good for you. Another variation is that after knight to c3 here, they go bishop to f5, and after bishop to c4, pawn to e6, you play queen to e2, and then all of a sudden they play queen to d4. Here, you could sacrifice another pawn by playing pawn to f3. E takes f3, then you retreat back with your knight, gaining another tempo on the queen, and you are now rotating the knight to going into e5. Like, let's say the queen retreats all the way back. Now, first of all, you should always short castle to put this sort of pressure. Maybe to be more accurate, to play pawn to d4 so this bishop doesn't come out with check. And usually after knight e5, like let's say bishop to d6, short castling, you see the rook on the open file, it's putting a great pressure over there. And with knight to e5, you are going to be attacking the pawn on f7. With the support of this bishop and this rook, you are gonna find a lot of tactics occurring on those both squares. So this is why we go for knight to c3 at the beginning and do not go for d3, but sometimes we could deviate. So now let's go all the way back and see what happens if they, after knight to g5, try to defend their pawn with bishop to f5. Now, there is two options here for you. One is very aggressive and lunatic one, and one is quiet and it's a playable position. The first one, and it's the quiet, which is to play just simply knight to c3, and after knight to f6, you could play pawn to d3 here, in fact, which after e takes d3, you are going to go queen to f3, hitting the bishop and hitting the pawn. A lot of the black players will panic here and do not know what to do, and they will go bishop to c8, which will, after you are going to play bishop takes d3 with such a great position, a move like h6, for example, knight g to e4, and, it's a really great position for white. Yes, white is down a pawn, but you see 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out. White is ready to castle, while black doesn't get out. He only gets out the knight, and he's still not ready to castle. He's in fact far away from castle. Other line also could be queen c8 here, which after that, you could just take the pawn on d3, allowing bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and pawn to e6 from black, which after that you are going to play bishop to f4 with the long castling ideas, like let's say bishop to e7, long side castling, short side castling. There is some ideas related to knight to b5, or also knight c to e4, immediately trying to remove the only defender of the king on f6 to gain some attack. Also keep in mind that at any circumstances, if they played pawn to h6, here you are going to have an immediate checkmate, but at the most general thing, here you do not move this knight at all. Like let's say you play king b1, alright, simple prophylactic move, and they played h6. You always go for h4, you never really retreat this knight away from the square of g5 because it's the most annoying piece, and if they ever do this, then after that, like let's say they move their knight away, then now they fall into queen to h7, which is going to be a checkmate in one move. So let's go all the way back. There is another cool variation that I wanted to share with you, is in fact here you could ignore everything and go for bishop to e3. After queen c8, you go for bishop to e3, sacrificing yet another pawn. D takes c2, and now bishop to c4 is gonna attack this immediately. Upon a move like pawn on e6, it would allow some tactics like knight takes f7, for example, which after queen takes f7, there's queen takes f5 with the pin, and you are just going to retreat back and win this, and it's all life good for you again. And you could also go here for bishop to f4, allowing d takes c2 yet again, with the idea after bishop c4, e6, you short castle, and knight to c6 are gonna be met with moves like knight to b5 are really annoying here for the black side, and you should yet again have a comfortable position. So let's go all the way back again. After bishop to f5, this is the quiet variation. Come on, who wants to play a quiet variation? We all love aggression chess. So g4 from white, he's coming from you, for you as black. So 1 to g4, attacking the bishop immediately. The bishop drops back to g6, and now just bishop to g2, trying to regain back the pawn. So most of the players is going to go knight to f6, hanging on to their pawn for dear life here, and now you go for h4. Now, this is pretty much aggressive one. An engine will easily refute this, but keep in mind, we are not engines, we are humans, so most likely you are going to have an attacking position which after that your opponent will fall into some good tactic because tactics works in the favor of the attacking side. So now they got multiple choices. They could go h5, which is objectively the best move, which after that you will go for knight to c3, allowing h takes g4 to go for knight takes e4, and it's a playable position after all of those exchanges here. You'll get back the pawn on g4 with a slightly bad position. But here, let's see, the most players go h6, thinking that okay, we'll create a loop for our bishop, and at the same time we're attacking the knight. Here, the position we will get, I'm almost sure that never one of you guys ever saw before, because it's so creative. Because now white could go, in fact, pawn to h5, allowing h takes g5, which after that he's going to go pawn takes on g6. Right now the rooks are faced off against each other, so black has to take the rook, which after that bishop takes h1 is going to be played, and now f takes g6. And what is that, my friends? What is that? This is not chess anymore. Now we are playing horde chess, which aside having all pawns stacked up against a normal piece. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little creative gambit and an aggressive gambit, the Tennyson gambit. Make sure guys to watch our previous videos, and I'll see you guys on the next videos. Goodbye.